Well, with the owners meeting officially underway for the last few days, I figured it would be a good time to just go, look through some of the proposed rule changes, take a look at what's been implemented, what hasn't been, what could be good, what could be bad, all that fun stuff, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. So before we get far into this, I do want to mention I am using a Bleacher Report article. The link will be down in the comments down below for you to check it out yourself, but we'll go ahead and take a look through all of these different proposed rule changes for this year, and let's go ahead and start off with the ones that we know are actually happening. So we're first off going to talk about the obvious one, the one that was talked about for many months, the banning of the hip drop tackle. Now this one is a very huge move, considering that the NFL was determined to do this despite pushback from the NFL Players Association. Basically, the union saying, we don't want you to ban this. The league goes and bans it anyway. This is going to be a massive point of contention because this will also hinder a defense's ability to tackle. Yes, it is in the name of player safety. Yes, player safety is very important. We don't like seeing stars like Mark Andrews sidelined for many months due to injuries and due to severe injuries due to potentially harmful tackling. But, and here's the big but, with the fact that this is going to be such a subjective thing to basically enforce, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to officiate. I think the obvious things are going to be you grab by the hip and drop them down, but that also would include stuff like, I think I saw they were showing a tackle of T. Higgins that looked like a very routine tackle that they were saying would violate the hip drop tackle rule. So this is a massive, massive penalty, and this will lead to many, many dissatisfactions from coaches, players, fans alike from the enforcement of this penalty or potential lack thereof. And I just think that it's a good name in the move of player safety, but I just think that they are going about it the wrong way by doing this extreme of a measure. Up next, the next thing that we know for a fact is coming, and it is the new kickoff rules. This was one that was, it's been talked about for a few years now, off and on. Will they do it? Won't they do it? Is it will they? Won't they? And eventually, this one, it was not really high on my radar this year of actually happening. But it did. We officially have the new kickoff rules, which will follow in the footsteps of the XFL and the USFL. The kicker having to kick it within the 20-yard line, and if it doesn't land there, then that'll be a touchback, or I think it's a penalty at that point. Touchback brings out to the 25, all that fun stuff. Players are lined up 5 yards apart from each other, starting 25 yards from the kicking spot. So overall, this is going to be a massive move in the name of player safety. This will also lead to a lot more returnable kickoffs, because players will be kind of more incentivized to try to get the return as they can. And this also leads to kickers having a bit more of a, strategy, I should say. Because now your players are a lot closer to being able to tackle. Now the big thing is that the tackle cannot start and players cannot move until the ball is fielded or the ball lands on the ground. So that is another thing to note. But overall, I feel like this will be good for the game. Player safety, you're not going to have as high impact collisions on the kickoff, and you're going to have potentially a lot more returnable kickoffs as a result of this rule change. Now, kind of going into it with this, we're not sure, and I don't think this will be the actual play the NFL goes, but kind of into it with the kickoff rule, due to the fact that onside are no longer going to be there's no longer a possible surprise onside. Is going to be talking about the actual onside kick proposed rule change of having a 4th and 20 from your own 20 to retain possession. I think this is definitely something the NFL should consider in the future because teams are going to have a lot better of a chance at getting that 4th and 20 or even a 4th and 15 than they will of getting the onside kick. Onside kicks have been notoriously horrible for teams, and this is going to be potentially massive. Now, I think if they're going to do this, they need to incorporate it within, you can only run this within the last 2 minutes of any given half, or the last 5 minutes of any given half. You shouldn't be able to run this any time because then teams that are really good at getting chunk yardage will be more tempted to go for it in the first quarter whenever they are, trying to steamroll ahead. Is it going to be easy? No, but I really think that this is a good rule change that should be implemented. I just don't foresee it happening this year based off of what we've seen. It's certainly a possibility, but I don't think that this is going to be the way they go yet. But it will definitely be something that should be considered as it will increase the spirit of the game and the competition of the game because, if you have a better chance at getting the ball back, you have a better chance at coming back. So that is a huge rule change that the NFL is overlooking in my opinion. Alright, up next, we got another smaller one here, play clock reviews. Now, play clock reviews, they are going to be good because we love getting things right. Definitely, you want to make sure you get the right call. You don't want to end up, awarding a team an extra 2 seconds of play clock because a ref was sleeping on the job. That is obvious. Nobody wants that. But The problem is that some teams will snap it with, right as the clock strikes 1 and is about to hit 0. That could lead to teams being, frustrated, upset, and that might lead to a lot more of reviews, a lot more time taken between plays due to the play clock review. I think it definitely is a good move that should be done. We have not seen anything official, at least not from what I have seen. We have not seen anything official of this being a rule change, but I do think that it's something to consider, but it needs to be implemented the right way. Alright, going now to another one that we know for a fact is happening, a later trade deadline. This would be, it's going to be massive for the NFL, I think. They pushed the trade deadline by a week, so it's now going to be after week 9 instead of after week 8, which is going to be big because some teams might be in a situation where they're starting to surge and they want to get players on the roster, or there's going to be situations where teams are trying to trade a player and things don't work out because of time limits. So I really feel like this is going to be a good move that can, help make things a little more interesting. Teams will be more incentivized to trade a bit more, and I really feel like it just is a good move because the trade deadline was always so early in the season. Being not even halfway through the season, that's not like any of the other sports. I mean, I know the NHL trade deadline just happened a couple weeks ago, and that is only like a month or two before the playoffs. NBA, similar deal. So the thing is that the NFL needs to advance and needs to make this happen because it just makes plain sense, because every other league has that rule of the trade deadline being towards the end of the season. I mean, I wouldn't even be opposed to go after a week 11 trade deadline because that just makes sense. It makes sense to be about a month or two out from the end of the season, especially for the NFL, closer to that 1 month to 1.5 month time frame. So, after week 9 just makes a lot of sense. Now, the fourth one for a fact that I know is going to be happening is a ability to have a third challenge without having to get both of your previous challenges as correct. Basically, as long as you get one of your 2 challenges correct, you get the right to the third challenge. So I really feel like this is going to be beneficial because sometimes, a coach will make a challenge on a very close play that could go either way, and because there's no clear definitive evidence for the challenge to be overturned, they don't get the overturn even though it was very close. That is definitely a good challenge, but a lot of times it won't go the coach's way and they end up just losing the timeout and they lose the ability to have that third challenge because they didn't get a second challenge or they didn't get the first challenge right or the second challenge right, whatever challenge it was. So I really feel like this is going to be good for the game. This will allow teams to, make more challenges on those nitty-gritty plays. There's a lot of plays that have been very close that are challengeable that some teams and some coaches will not challenge because they know that it's not going to be overturnable. If the timeout is expendable, it makes sense to challenge. And that will lead to, I think, a lot more challenges in the first half, as timeouts don't really make a lot of difference in the first half. They are important, but they don't make a massive swing of the game in the first half. I really feel like this will make the first half of games a lot more interesting with this rule change, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it will do in the long term for the game. Now, one rule change here that the Colts have proposed that I want to talk about. There's not really a lot of them that I really want to go too far in depth about. I've skipped over some of them that were listed here because, quite frankly, I don't think a lot of them are going to be as, impactful. But this is one that I think will be very impactful if, and only if, it is implemented. The Colts have a rule change proposal to permit, it's quote, to permit a coach or replay official inside of 2 minutes to challenge any foul that has been called. This is going to be interesting if it does get played out because we've already seen what happens whenever you give coaches the chance to challenge pass interference. A lot of these calls are going to be subjective in nature, and the thing is that if you don't have the clear and obvious evidence, you can't overturn it. So, if there's a light contact on the back of a player, like let's say the player's coming in, hitting here as you're trying to get the ball, that's not clear and obvious evidence of a non-pass interference if it's just a light touch. So the thing is that there is a lot of gray area, and the NFL does not overturn challenges in the gray area. So I really feel like this would just lead to timeouts being taken unnecessarily. Longer time will be allowed and basically given in the last 2 minutes. The NFL is not known for the last 2 minutes playing out like the last minute of an NBA game, where you have stoppage, one shot stoppage, one stop stoppage. That's not what the NFL is known for. And I really feel like this rule change will kind of take away from the game if it does get implemented. Yes, there are some blown calls, like the Roby Coleman pass interference call, I'm not sure if it was Roby Coleman, but it was someone on the Rams that, completely pushed a guy out of bounds way back in 2018 that should have been called a penalty and it wasn't. There's been a lot of other penalties that were missed, obvious calls that were missed. You know, like looking at some of the games, like the Rams-Ravens this last year, one of the ones I look at, the Ravens got away with a couple of different penalties in the last 2 minutes when the Rams were driving down the field trying to get a touchdown and instead settled for a field goal, leading to the Ravens winning that game. That game would have potentially made a difference in the standings in the NFC when you look at it, and potentially even in the AFC. So the thing is, this is going to be good. This would be good for teams to get the call right. But I feel like it could be abused and taken in a way bad method that just it unnecessarily extends the game. I really feel like there should be a challenge. You should be able to challenge it, but I think that if you're going to allow the challenges, it needs to be challenges of no calls, not challenges of calls. Because the challenges of calls, they're very subjective, and you're almost never going to have the necessary evidence to say, yeah, no, this was not a penalty. So I really feel like if you're going to do this, it needs to be the no calls that get challenged. But I just think this will unnecessarily extend the game just due to the gray area and the gray nature of a lot of penalties in the NFL. Alright, well that's about going to do it for me today, but I do want to give you guys a little channel update here as we are getting to move into the UFL season. I was a little bit on the defense if I was going to cover the UFL or not, and I have made my decision. I am officially going to cover the UFL. Now, game streams are going to be a little bit more intermittent. We're not always going to be going live for games. We'll try to, but we're not always going to be. I know Saturdays are probably going to be out most of the times. Sundays hit or miss, so we'll see how things play out for game streams, but I will be getting at least 2 videos out per week now with the UFL season. I might even make 3 depending on if I do power rankings or not. I know I'll probably do recaps, maybe power rankings, and then definitely predictions each week. So we'll go ahead and start off with my predictions. That'll probably go out Thursday night-ish, give or take, and then we'll go ahead and roll into the weekend and get back on the roll, get back on the ball, and I've just been having a little bit of trouble just keeping up with the content. I've been struggling on some ideas, so I really feel like doing the UFL content will allow me to kind of keep the flow going while still being able to cover something that I do enjoy. I do enjoy spring football. So if you guys do want to see that, don't forget to smash like and subscribe and all that fun jazz. Also, how would you guys feel about if I were to branch out a little bit? I've been watching a lot more of other sports. How would you feel if I would branch out into maybe doing some live game coverage of other sports on this channel? Not saying I will, but I just want to get your guys' opinion on that. So let me know in the comments down below. And I guess with that, check out the video down over here. It's one that YouTube thinks you will like. And with that, I will see you guys later. Peace out and have a good one.